Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back to the Virtual House Church. We are in a new Shabbat, in a new day, and I know that as I'm feeling, you are also feeling, waiting for this time that we are joining together in this virtual gathering with the only purpose to enjoy this time together, to keep the commandments of Abba, at least joining here virtually in this platform, and with the purpose to get back to the basic and to study the word of Yahuwah. So I'm welcoming all of you that are joining in the two channels. I see 63 of you in the Rob Skiva channel and 42 of you in the Light of the Nations channel. And this is always a blessing to spend part of this time of Shabbat with all of you that I know that we are feeling in our heart during the week to get to this time, to enjoy this and this lot of time in Shabbat together, and just to connect with each other, just to go in deep details on the study of the word of Yahuwah. And I think all of us are looking forward for food of the word of Yahuwah, including myself, to see what Yahuwah is bringing over our table in order to enjoy His word, in order to enjoy his teaching and his wisdom. And as I always mentioned, at the beginning of every broadcast, it's a blessing to continue with the House Church. It's a blessing to be to keep the study of this new cycle with the additional books, not going directly to Torah as we always do, but to keep studying, the rest of the books, because we see so many examples, and I'm quite sure that what we are going to read today and what we are going to study today is going to bring us much blessings to all of us, because we can put ourselves in the shoes of the forefathers, the things that they were going through, because there's nothing new under the sun. This is what the Solomon said, and it's so true, because everything that we are going through in these times is something very similar to our forefathers went through as well. So just the only fact that we are reading and we are studying those stories and those books, it helps us in order to have the same attitude. It helps us in order to be guided in the same way that they were guided in the way of Yahuwah. And for me, from my personal point of view, that's one of the most important blessings of keeping the study of these books, just to reflect ourselves in their own lives, because it's serving us as an example in our own walk. And I really hope that this is also blessing you in the same way that it's blessing me to continue with this study. So, as we always do, I want to invite all of you, and let me switch the screen here, to visit the website of the Virtual House Church, and is the one here in the screen. You can go to virtualhousechurch.com, and you will go directly to this project that was initiated by our beloved brother Rob Skiva and his wife Chile Skiva. And there is so much information over here that has been gathered throughout the years that we need to remember that it was Yahuwah the one orchestrating, as he always does all the time, the possibility to have Virtual House Church, and we are enjoying Virtual House Church to this day. And there has been so much effort from the side of Rob and Chila to collect all the information throughout the years, with the only purpose to serve the people of Yahuwah, to be obedient to the voice of Yahuwah, because we can find so many information here on the different cycles and portions from Torah. And not only that, and actually let me just pick one of them. Let's go to Korach in Numbers week 38, and you will find all the information that has been collected throughout the years on the different broadcasts since 2013 till the ones that we were doing in 2022 and 2021. And there's not only that, there's so many resources and information that has complementing all the study of the portion of the scripture that is serving us in order to expand our understanding of the word of Yahuwah, and to understand even the meaning of the word. So you saw over there the word Sheol was the meaning in the scripture, and so many other information that Rob was guided by the Yahuwah Elohim to collect for our own benefit, for the Mishpacha, the family of Yahuwah in the four corners of the earth benefit. So I will invite you to go to this site to start collecting and checking this information, to study for yourself all this information. And not only that, actually I can see here this very nice research, for all of you that want to learn a little bit of Hebrew. This chart over here is so interesting because you can see the entire alphabet, from Aleph to Tav in Hebrew, and the numeric value, the pronunciation, and also what's the meaning. And this is so important. I was sharing, I think, a few weeks ago as well, additional resources for all of you that wanted to go deeper on the original language of the scripture. This is the language that was used on creation. I'm quite sure that this was the language that Yahuwah was speaking out in order to create everything that our eyes can see, in order to create man, in order to create woman. So, I think as it is written in the prophecies on his word, he is going to restore a pure language. And, I think all of us are waiting for the time that we are going to speak the same language, that we are going to keep the same times, and that we are going to keep the same way of Yahuwah, because we are going to be led by the righteous King that is Yahushua HaMashiach, who is going to guide us and teach us everything that we still don't know, and he's going to open our minds in order to receive the entire wisdom of Yahuwah. That's going to be an amazing time. But in the meantime, what we can do in the same way that we are doing here in Virtual House Church is to do our part and to do our effort in order to study more the word of Yahuwah, to study, the original language of the scripture. I think is a blessing to all of us, because it's expanding even the study and our understanding of the different studies we are doing of the word of Yah. So, something that I like very much from this site as well, and this is something we do sometimes, is this beautiful map over here. Let me see where it is. I think is over here. My internet connection is going very slow today, so it's taking a little bit of time to load all the site. Is here, this one, the one that I like it. So let me expand it and you will see it here. And as I always say, this is something so beautiful that just to see somehow visually how Yahuwah has been awakening us in the four corners of the earth. And just to see so many blue dots over here, these are part of, it's not the entire family of Yahuwah. It's part of the family of Yahuwah has been awakened in these last days. And just to see, how the word of Yahuwah is becoming a true thing in these last days, because he said that he is going to gather us from the four corners of the earth. And we can see here visually that we literally are in the four corners of the earth. We see some empty spaces here, in this part of the world. Even in my continent here in South America is not fully covered with blue dots, but I'm quite sure that maybe there are many blue dots in both sides that are not here in this map. Because, the word of Yahuwah is true, and he said that he's going to gather us from the four corners of the earth, because we are in the four corners of the earth. So, what we need to do, as I always inviting you, Yahuwah has been using his servants throughout the years in order to bring his light. That's the way that Yahuwah is always working. He's working through his servants. And if you don't know, but I'm sure you know, you are a servant of Yahuwah as well. If you have come back to him through Yahushua HaMashiach, we have become a servant of Elohim. And what a servant does is serving the master. And the master has been sending us in order to bring his light into this world. And what we have to do is to reach out to those places. We need to reach out to any place that the Spirit, the Ruach of Elohim is guiding us to bring His light in order for more of those blue dots that we see in this map are going to come up, are going to appear, because this is part of our commission. This is part of our purpose in the kingdom of Yahuwah. We need to bring the light of the kingdom of Yahuwah into this world. And you know what we are doing here in Virtual House Church is part of our, let's say, our training, our preparation to go into the field. And you know, the only fact that we are studying His Word is a kind of preparation for us to let the Ruach speak and to use us in our real purpose. What is our real purpose? Is to go into the world and to bring the light of the kingdom of Yahuwah. To bring the light of Yahuwah. There are so many things happening in the world today that today is more needed than ever to bring the light of Yahuwah. And you know, I have been saying this in the past. I know sometimes we don't find the spaces, we don't find a way to do it, but if we are really in synchrony, we are really in the same frequency, to say so, with Yahuwah, we will be led by the Ruach of Elohim to do and to fulfill our purpose in many different ways. So yeah, it's true, it's needed to study the word of Yahuwah. It's something that we should do in a daily basis, and it's so much a blessing that we can do it together here in Virtual House Church, that we should continue. That's the way that we are going to prepare ourselves in order to fulfill our purpose. But we should not forget, we should never forget that we have been called out of the world in order to get into the kingdom of Yahuwah with the purpose to serve Him. And He's going to use you as His servant in order to bring His light into this world. So we need to be with that attitude that as soon as the Master is sending us out into the world in order to bring this light, that we should be prepared, that we should be willing to do it, even in the middle of fear. And we are going to talk about that, I think, today in this portion. So, you know, for those of you that maybe has been joining just recently to this cycle of this new cycle of Virtual House Church, I just want to remind you, and let me put this in the screen. Here we go. That we are studying the book of 1 Samuel. We already studied the book of Joshua and the book of Judges, and you can find that information in the Virtual House Church website. I know that a few brothers are working in order to upload the videos of those weeks in Rob Skiba channel. In the meantime, if we are doing this, you can go to Light to the Nations channel. You will find all the studies that we have done in this new cycle from the first chapter of the book of Joshua until today. So if you want to somehow understand what Yahuwah has been teaching us and guiding us to study in the last few months, I will invite you to take a look on those videos. I know that it's a lot of time because it's a kind of we are used to do Virtual House Church in 2 hours. You know, I don't know how, but Yahuwah has guiding us to do so. And even there were some times that we have been going even more than 2 hours. So I know that taking a look in those videos is going to be a lot time, but I can tell you it's going to be a well invested time that you are going to enjoy how Yahuwah has been guiding us to do these studies. So, but this week particularly, you know, we are continuing with the study of the book of 1 Samuel. And today we are in this week 31, the one that you see highlighted in the screen. And we are going to read from chapter 23 until chapter 24. And we have entitled this in Hebrew. It says, Yishpot YaHuWaH Beini Uveinecha. You know, and what it means in English, it says over there, you can see it, is let Yahuwah judge between you and me. And this is something that is written in this portion, and we will see where it is written, because we are going to read together and we are going to study together this portion. And it's part of an amazing story that is going to talk to us a lot, especially in the times that we're living today. So, if you didn't know, we are going to read chapter 23 and 24, and we are just getting to the last portion of the book of First Samuel. We'll see how we will continue after that. But for sure, what Yahuwah is doing with us here in Virtual House Church is something to be. We have that joy in our heart that He is with us, that His presence is guiding us, and the Ruach of Elohim is guiding us in His ways and His truth. So, with no more further delay, I was waiting for Jake to join us, but I think he's having some technical difficulties. If he's not joining us live, he is going to be most probably in the chat. But we will let the Ruach guide us today, and let's see what we are going to study today. So before continuing, I will invite you to close your eyes, to lift your hands to the heaven, why we're doing and why we are lifting up our hands. And I think we talked about this a year ago here in Virtual House Church, that we are being instructed by Abba to raise our hands in our prayers to Him. And I remember somebody, I think it was Kevin back then, and even maybe it was Rob, that we were discussing that maybe by raising and lifting up our hands, this is acting like an antenna. It could be, that Yahuwah is touching us and touching our heart every time that we do it, because we are praying to Him with our heart and with our mind. So I will invite you to close your eyes today now, and let's lift our hands and let's pray together. Abba Kadosh, Abba Tov, Father, you are so good with us. You are the only one that we have to praise and worship, because you are the only true Elohim. You are the creator of the heavens and the earth. You have formed us and you have created us. In this time, with joy in our heart and with a humble heart, we pray to you to give thanks to you in this time, because you give us the opportunity to gather ourselves once again in this platform with the intention of our heart to keep your commandments, to keep your covenant. And we do it because we love you, Abba. We do it because we want to be obedient to your voice and to your eternal instruction. And we do it because we want to learn from your word. We ask you, Abba, in this moment, that you can guide us in the study that we are going to do today. I ask you, Abba, that you can send us of your Ruach in order to open our minds, in order to open our hearts, in order to give us of your wisdom and your understanding. We acknowledge, Abba, in this moment, that wisdom and understanding comes from you only. That our master and our teacher is Yahushua HaMashiach, nobody else. And with a humble heart, we ask you, Abba, that you can direct our words, that you can guide us in this portion that we are going to study of this amazing book on your word, that you can give us of your food, of your heavenly food. We need it, Abba. We need to be fed by you. We need your food and we need your bread of life. Abba, in these times of so much darkness, we need of your light in our heart, in this time of persecution and so many challenges in this life. We need more of you. And I ask you, Abba, in this time, for all your children around the world that are going through difficulties. I pray to you in this moment for Jimmy. He's going through sickness for the few days already. And in the same way that Yahushua was bringing healing to the mother-in-law of Peter, who was suffering for fever, I ask you, Abba, in this moment, and not only me, all your children that are being gathered in this platform. We ask you, that you can bring up your miracles, that you can remove the cause of the fever, and you can bring healing to his body. We trust in you, Yahuwah, and we ask you, as I told you yesterday, that our trust in you can become miracles in these times. We trust in you with all our heart, and we pray in this moment that you can manifest yourself in these times with signs and wonders, that you can lead us with your Ruach HaKodesh in order to bring those signs and wonders to this world that is so in fear, that you can bring your healing hands to your children that are going through difficulties and sickness. I have learned of so many of them that need your touching hand. We trust in you and we wait on you always. Listen to our voice, because we cry out to you in this moment. And we ask you, Abba, that your presence be with us, that we can be ahad in you in this time of study through your Ruach, through the love of Yahushua HaMashiach, that we can be ahad in you. Thank you, Abba, for listening to our voice. Thank you, Abba, for giving us the opportunity to pray to you, to be one with you. Guide our voices, guide our words, and guide us every time of our life. We pray to you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen. And that's true, brothers and sisters. I think we need to pray for one another all the times. I have received some emails from brothers and sisters that are going through difficulties. And no matter that we don't know each other in person, I think it's important that we need to pray for one another. The times that we are living are so difficult that, we are being pushed to trust more in the system of the world. The world doesn't know Yahuwah, the world doesn't know Elohim. And, we are being pushed all the time to trust in man, not to trust in Elohim. But I know that you that has joined us today and are joining all the time to Virtual House Church, and even if you are not joining all the time and you have the chance to listen to this broadcast, you are here because Yahuwah is touching your heart in order to trust in Him more than in men or women. And I do believe that He is going to start doing wonderful things in this time. It is written that it's going to be like that. And that's why we need to give that trust within us all the time in our heart. We need to keep trusting in Him till the end, because that's an overcomer, the one that is holding so hard from the hand of Yahushua HaMashiach, that even that the storm is so heavy and so big, that we are holding His hand so hard with all our strength, that we are going to get till the end. That's emunah. It's believing and doing. That's what we are being called out to do, is to believe until the end. And we are being so pushed to do things in different ways. We are always being, all of us have been being pushed to do and believe in something different, that we need to store in our hearts so strongly, our belief. And we need to pray for one another in order to be strong and courageous enough to continue doing so. I believe. I believe in miracles. I believe in the powerful hand, right hand of Yahuwah. And if we pray for one another, He is going to manifest Himself with that power. He is going to manifest Himself with those wonderful signs. It's just for us to believe. It's just for us to put in practice our emunah, our faith. So I will invite you to pray for your brothers and sisters around the world. No matter that if you don't know the names, you know that there's somebody on the family of Yahuwah that most probably is in need of your prayers. And you know, Yahuwah will know your heart. Yahuwah will know who is that child that's in need. And because you are crying out to Him, because of your love of your brothers and sisters, He is going to listen to your voice. And what a wonderful thing is if we do it as a body, praying for one another, He is going to listen to our voice in these times. So, you know, let's go to the portion, because I think we are going to spend a little bit more on this point. So let's go to the book of 1 Samuel. You know, I was reading this portion in preparation for the broadcast, and you know, for all of you that have been following this new cycle of Virtual House Church already, maybe you know that sometimes I'm just letting my heart to speak, giving the space to the Ruach to guide us, and I really hope, keep me in your prayers, that this is going to be the time, because I have few notes, but not that much. And sometimes it's better to do it like this, just to speak from the heart and to see what Yahuwah is bringing to all of us today. You know, and I want to mention this, especially now that the more people are able to join us in Virtual House Church. And just a brother as you are. You know, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a scholar. Just Yahuwah orchestrated everything, you know, to put me here to share with you what I'm getting into my heart. But, you know, it's up to all of us to study the word of Yahuwah. It's up to all of us to seek Yahuwah's face in order for us to guide us in His ways and His truth. So don't listen to me just because I'm here in the screen and just sharing with you. You know, sometimes I don't like it that much to be so exposed, because, you know, I'm in the same way as you in this journey to learn myself the way of Yahuwah. But if Yahuwah has decided to continue this Virtual House Church in this way, if Yahuwah has decided to put all of us in this gathering together, we need to be obedient. So I'm doing it with a very humble heart. So I really hope that you are getting it in the same way. So let's see what the Ruach is going to guide us today in this portion. So let's start by reading the chapter 23, and let's see what we're going to find over here. So it says, and let me, you know, increase the font, so it's going to be much easier for all of you that are checking the scripture in the screen to read. So it says the following, starting in verse 1. And they informed David, saying, see, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and they are plundering the threshing floors. And you know, just a commentary over here. For us, you know, if we want to compare to the modern times, it's like somebody plundering the supermarkets, just for you to know. You know, and most probably you have seen this happening in the world. In these days, I can tell you, even in my country, we face this situation of a social unrest in 2019, and you know, multiple supermarkets were plundered. And I have seen this in South Africa happening. I have seen this even in the US, in some places happening. This is something that's happening in the world today. It's part of the system of the world. And we see this was brought out from the enemies of Yahuwah, from the Philistines. So plundering the threshing floors is just to remove the source of food from the people. And I didn't see this before when I was reading it earlier today, but this is also speaking to us about what should be our attitude when we see these things happening in our days. What's our attitude? It's the attitude that David took. So let's continue reading. So it says in the verse 2, so David inquired of Yahuwah, saying, shall I go and strike these Philistines? And Yahuwah said to David, go and smite the Philistines and save Keilah. So let's rewind a little bit and let's remember what we were studying the last 2 weeks here in Virtual House Church. David was running away. David was being persecuted by Shaul. He was trying to save his own life. That was the context of everything that we are reading here in this portion. He was hiding himself in order not to be killed. He was being persecuted because he was following the way of Yahuwah. He was the anointed one of Yahuwah. But even in persecution, people were seeking him in order to be saved. And for me, this is speaking a lot as well, because sometimes, we, the body of Mashiach, we find ourselves being persecuted. We find ourselves in fear. And what are we doing in order to help those ones in need? What are we doing in order to help those ones that are being persecuted as well? Sometimes we took the position, I'm going to speak for myself first, that we are hiding ourselves, but we are not looking into the ones that are being persecuted in order to have the same attitude that David, that even that he was hiding himself, at the moment he heard that somebody was suffering, and let's keep in mind that he was a man, with the same heart of Yahuwah. So at the moment he heard that somebody was suffering, what was his attitude? Maybe I need to go and help. And what he did, he inquired of Yahuwah. He inquired of Yahuwah and if he needed to do something. So I think this is speaking a lot, especially, now that we are facing similar situations. People out there is in need. People out there is in darkness. And we need to ask Abba. We need to ask him. We need to inquire of Yahuwah in the same way that David was asking Yahuwah, what should I do, Abba? Should I go? Should I help them? Should I do something about this situation? He is the one that is going to guide us on what to do. Let's continue reading. It says, and David men said to him, see, we here in Yehuda, this is Judah, are afraid. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? So, David was with his army from the people of Judah, the southern kingdom, even though that the two houses were not split yet. And we spoke about that, a few weeks ago, that we see here that the division was already there between the two houses, even though that it didn't come to a realization yet. That division already existed. That's why David was reigning on the house of Judah first, in the house of Yehuda first for 7 years, and then for the entire Israel. And we will see this on the coming portions most probably. So the people were afraid, the same way that maybe we are afraid today about what's going on in the world. But what David did is what is written in the verse 4. And David inquired of Yahuwah once again. And Yahuwah answered him and said, Arise, go down to Keilah, for I am giving the Philistine into your hand. So we get so entertained sometimes with the fears that we have in our hearts. We get so entertained and focused on the challenges we are facing in our day-to-day lives that we forget that the first thing we have to do is to ask Yahuwah. That's the meaning to be guided by the Ruach of Elohim. That's the meaning of being guided by Yahuwah through his Ruach. That every time, that no matter that we are going through persecution, no matter that we are going through any kind of challenges, that the first thing that we should do is to ask Yahuwah what to do. And you know what, for me, it's always been an interesting thing, before we continue, is that David in this case was very specific. And in our prayers, sometimes we are so, let's say, vague on what we are asking Abba, that if we are not specific, we are not going to get a specific answer. And let's see what David was asking first. Should I go and strike these Philistines? You know, he was asking two specific questions. Should I go and should I strike? And he got a specific answer. Go and smite. And when he was asking once again in the verse 4, he was asking once again, and Yahuwah was giving him a specific answer. So, you know, this is something that I have been learned in the hard way in my own walk, that sometimes I'm so genetic every time that I'm praying, that the more specific we are, the more specific answer we will get from Yahuwah. And if you're wondering how David was inquiring of Yahuwah, how he was getting this answer, you know, I think this is something that we need to develop ourselves directly in our personal relationship with Yahuwah. He is gonna talk to you. He is gonna answer you, maybe in a different way that he's answering me. He is going to talk to you and guide you, not necessarily in the same way that he's guiding others. He is going to have a personal way to talk to you, to guide you. And this is something that you are going to be able to develop only if you get closer and closer to him. And sometimes, you know, we get closer to him and sometimes we are not so close because we are focused in our day-to-day. And you know, this is something that the Ruach, I know that it's happening to you as well, that the Ruach is igniting the fire in our heart. And this is the amazing way that he is guiding us in the way of Yahuwah, that he's reminding us all the time that we need to get closer to Abba, that we need to get closer to him, because that's the only way that we are going to be able to know him. If we don't know him, we are not going to know how he talked to us. If we don't read his word, we are not going to be able to recognize his voice. If we are not developing that relationship with him in the same way that David did, we are not going to be able to be led by him through his Ruach. So, you know, in this time of troubles and in these last days, because there is no doubt that we are living in the last days, we need to get closer to Yahuwah. Because in the middle of persecution, he will guide us. In the middle of challenges, he will save us. In the same way that he was saving David. And, you know, there are a few examples that I want to share with you, and, you know, amazing people from the past, that they were guided in the same way. And this is also speaking to us as an example, that we need to push forward to have the same kind of experiences. You know, if we're sitting in our chair, studying the word of Yahuwah, but not living it through our own experiences, because we're missing something important. We need to study His Word. But the most important thing, we need to live our life, our experiences through His Word. You know? So let me bring you some of the examples. Let's go to the book of Acts. And I like the book of Acts. I think this is exactly what we need in these times. We need to act in the same way that the disciples of Mashiach were doing in this time. So let's go first to the chapter 8. And we're going to read verse 25 to 29. And this is an amazing story of Philip, and most probably you remember this story. But let's read it together just to see how Yahuwah was using this man, because we will see something similar on how Yahuwah was using and guiding David, and this is the example on how He can use you and He can use me. So it says the following. Then, after they had earnestly witnessed and spoken the word of Yahuwah, they returned to Jerusalem, bringing the good news in many villages of the Shomeronim, this is Samaria. But a messenger of Yahuwah spoke to Philip, saying, Arise and go toward the south, along the way which goes down from Jerusalem to Asa. This is desert. So you see here, it was a messenger of Yahuwah that appeared to Philip. There was a different way. It's not written in the book of Samuel that a messenger appeared to David to bring the answer from Yahuwah. He was getting the answer directly in his heart, most probably. But here we see a different way that Yahuwah can use us. He can send a messenger to speak to us on what to do. So let's continue. And he arose and went, and saw a man of Cush, a eunuch of great authority under Kandak, the sovereignness of the Cushites, who was in charge of all the treasury, and had come to Jerusalem to worship, and was returning and sitting in his chariot. He was reading the prophet Yeshayahu Isaiah. Listen to this. And the Ruach said to Philip, Go near and join him in the chariot. So we see first a messenger of Yahuwah talking and giving an instruction to Philip. But then we see the Ruach of Elohim saying, He was speaking to him. It doesn't say there was an audible voice. Somebody can speak to you even with thoughts. When you speak to yourself, you don't speak loudly most of the time. You speak in your heart. In the same way that Hannah was praying to Abba, asking for Samuel. She was speaking in her heart and just moving her lips. So, the Ruach can speak to you in the same way, in your heart, through your thoughts. And most probably this was the way that Philip received this word from the Ruach. Go near and join him in the chariot. So we see Philip, the disciple of Mashiach, of Messiah, being guided by the Ruach of Elohim. Is the Ruach the one that is going to guide us on what to do? In the same way that he was answering David on the question of what to do, to save or not to save the people of Keilah. In the same way that he was guiding Philip. Let's just read something else here in this amazing book. Let's go to the chapter 16. And this is another man. Yeah. We are going to read from verse 6 to 7. This is talking about Paul, Shaul in Hebrew. And it says the following, And having passed through Phrygia and the Galatian country, they were forbidden by the Ruach HaKodesh, the set-apart spirit, to speak the word in Asia. When they came to Mysia, they tried to go into Bithynia, but the Ruach did not allow them. Can you see here what it means to be guided by the Ruach of Elohim? The Ruach can tell you where to go, what to do. He can tell you not to do, not to go. In the same way we see here happening in the case of Paul. This is exactly what we need to seek in these times. We have been studying His Word for so long, and we need to continue doing it until the end of our times. But we need to start seeking to live His Word through our experiences in order to be guided on what to do in these times, in order to be guided to fulfill our purpose in His kingdom, to bring His light into this world. You know, people are so, in the world, so, let's say, blind view to the way of life of today. Nothing I can say is bringing some interest or making them the wonder of things to come. Why? Because there are so many awesome things happening in the world because of technology that nothing is making the people feel awesome or wow, in the wow effect because of what's going on in the world. You know what was happening in the first days of the disciples? They were bringing so many signs and wonders into the world. You know, they were healing the sick. They were bringing some marvelous signs from Yahuwah. That the people from that time, when they saw this happening, they started to believe. And I can tell you that if we are being moved in the same way that they were moved, even though that the world today is so blind because they have lost this fire, and nothing can remove them from this mindset, because they are so blind because of we see many things, marvelous things happening through technologies. You know, the ruach and the power that is coming from above is much more stronger, much more wonderful. That if Yahuwah manifests Himself in the same way that He did in the past, you know, His power and His ruach is the one that's going to remove that blindness from their eyes. And you know, Yahuwah said that He will do it in these last days, that He will send the latter rain. And I think, you know, what we need to put our focus today is to serve Him in ruach, in spirit, and in truth. We need to continue studying His Word, but we need to seek for the manifestation of the ruach of Elohim in our lives in order to bring the entire truth of Yahuwah into this world. Because with the fruits of the Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit, we are going to be able to do our purpose, to bring the good news of Yahuwah. That was the way that the people from the past did it, the prophets from the past, and also the disciples of Mashiach. And Yahuwah can do the same in these days, to guide us in the same way. But we need to be willing, we need to be prepared in our hearts. We need to trust Him at all times. We need to seek His face and to get closer to Him, and to pray to Him and to ask Him to send us of His ruach in order to bring those signs and wonders, in order to remove and break the chains of the darkness in this world, in order to be able to save those people in problems and in challenges in the same way that David did. And you know, just to bring an additional and final example here, and this is the most important one, let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 4. And let's read just the first verse here, verse number 1. Then Yahushua was led up by the Spirit, by the Ruach, into the wilderness to be tried by the devil. Our own Mashiach, being led by the Ruach of Elohim, to go to some place to do something. And he is the better example, and is the best example for all of us, that we need to follow his steps. We need to be eager, and we need to be in hunger. We need to be hungry to seek the Ruach of Elohim. In these times is what we need, and Yahuwah is preparing us. I have no doubt for that. He's preparing us to serve him in that way. So let's go back to the book of Samuel, chapter 23. So, what David did after he was, even he was afraid, he was being persecuted, the people that was with him was afraid, most probably he was wondering what to do. So he inquired of Yahuwah. Even in that moments of desperation, he was inquiring of Yahuwah. In those moments of doubts and in those moments of fear, he was asking Abba what to do. And even though that they were in fear, they were obedient to the word and the voice of Yahuwah, because what they did in the verse 5, so David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines, and he led away their livestock and struck them a great smiting. Thus David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. And it came to be when Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, fled to David at Keilah, that he went down with a shoulder garment in his hand. If you remember, we were studying about Abiathar last week, and he was the only survivor of the house of Eli. Shaul commanded Doeg to kill everybody on the city of Nob, and the only one that survived was Abiathar, and he fled away to David. So he was having an ephod and a shoulder garment in his hand. So, let's continue reading, because this story is becoming even more interesting, and it's a reflection of what's happening to us even in these days. So let's continue reading the verse 7. And Shaul was informed that David had gone to Keilah. Then Shaul said, Elohim has stranged him into my hand, for he has shut himself in by entering a town that has gates and bars. And this is also interesting to see that Shaul he was thinking that he was serving Elohim, that he was thinking that Elohim was still with him. And that's why he thought that the Elohim was giving David into his hand. And that this is exactly what's happening in these days. Yesterday I was taking a look in few videos. Actually, one of them was from Torah Family, from Steve Mutria. I will recommend you to go and check this video, because he's talking about the Antichrist. And there was another video, I don't remember the name of the brother in Israel, that he was talking about the rise of the one-world religion. And they touch base a little bit on this, what I'm going to say today. We have been talking about this here in Virtual House Church lately. That here in the story of Shaul, we see what's happening in our days. And most importantly, we see what will happen even more in the days ahead. That we will find ourselves with people that they will believe that they are serving Elohim. They can call it God, they can call it in whatever names, but they will believe that they are doing and serving the creator of the heaven and the earth. And even though that they will believe that, they will be doing something totally different. They will be working in lawlessness. They will be going in a different path, not the path of Elohim, the path of Yahuwah. And we see here exactly happening how Shaul was persecuting David, believing that he was serving Elohim. So we need to be prepared, because what's coming ahead could be something very similar. We see happening in our days. People that believe and say that trust in the Bible. I believe in the Bible, they can say. And they're going to talk about love, and they're going to talk about many things. But are they really following the righteousness of the kingdom of Yahuwah? In those moments is when we need to be guided by the discernment of the Spirit of Elohim, the Ruach of Elohim. And that's why, Yahuwah has been doing an amazing work with you and me in these days. that he has been preparing us in his truth, in the entire truth of his word. From the first book of this amazing compilation of books till the end. We need to believe his entire word. That's the only way that we will understand what his purpose and his plan. And that's the only way that we are going to be able to discern the truth from the lie. But the time is coming, and that's why, this story, if we continue reading, it will speak a lot to us. What should be our attitude in the times that we are living and in the times ahead? So let's continue reading. And Shaul summoned all the people to battle. Let me check something here. Okay, let's continue. So Shaul summoned all the people to battle, to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. And David knew that Shaul was plotting evil against him, and said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring the shoulder garment here." And this is something that I'm not going to go into the details, but it's something so beautiful, because the only fact that David was asking for the ephod, the shoulder garment, is for me a foreshadow of our king and priest, or our Melech and Kohen in Hebrew. And who is that? Is Yahushua HaMashiach, our king and high priest. And this is a foreshadow, the only fact that David was asking for the ephod in order to inquire even more to Yahuwah, is the foreshadow of Mashiach, that in him we see the two roles of the anointed of Yahuwah. The king is the anointed, and also the Kohen, the priest, is the anointed of Yahuwah, being consolidated in just one person. This is Yahushua HaMashiach. So what David did with the ephod, it says, "And David said, O Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, your servant has heard for certain that Shaul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city for my sake. Are the landowners of Keilah going to surrender me into his hand?" Remember, we were talking about being very specific in our ask to Elohim, and he is being very specific. "Is Shaul coming down as your servant has heard? O Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, I pray, let your servant know." And Yahuwah said, "He's coming down." So, a specific question, a specific answer. And David said, "Are the landowners of Keilah going to surrender me and my men into the hands of Shaul?" And Yahuwah said, "They are going to surrender you." And you can see here something that maybe you have been going through in your own experience. And it doesn't mean that if we are obedient to the voice of Yahuwah, that we are going to be free of persecution. That David was being persecuted by Shaul, but Yahuwah touched his heart in order to save the people in problems, in troubles, and he did it because he obeyed the voice of Yahuwah. But because of obedience, he found himself even in a more difficult situation. That can happen to us, and most probably you have been going through that situation in the past. But it doesn't mean that we should not obey. It doesn't mean that we should hide ourselves in our comfort zone and not to obey the voice of Yahuwah and not to fulfill the purpose that he is guiding us to do through his Ruach. Not at all. We need to trust in Yahuwah at all times, because in the same way that he was guiding us to do something in obedience to his voice, he is the one that he is going to save us from the hands of our enemies. So let's continue reading. And it says, "Then David and his men, about 600, arose and left Keilah and went wherever they could go. And Shaul was informed that David had escaped from Keilah, and he ceased to go out. And David remained in the wilderness in strongholds, and remained in the hill country in the wilderness of Ziph. And Shaul sought him every day, but Elohim did not give him into his hand." And when I was reading this, I'm just gonna bring into memory what Yahushua was speaking about the last days. He was saying and telling his disciples that they were going to be persecuted. And they were saying that, when you are going to be persecuted in this city, go to the other one. and you are going to be persecuted in that city, go to another. And we see this happening in the life of David. He was being persecuted and he was running away from one place to the other. It doesn't mean that maybe we will need to do the same in the last days. I don't know, most probably. But there was the point that I want to highlight. How faith works. And we have been studying this for a long time here in Virtual House Church. How faith works. Need two components. Is the belief, our thoughts, what we believe internally. But not only that, the second important component is what to do. If we want to fulfill and feel to complete what we believe, we need to do according to what we think and what we believe. And why I'm saying this, David was trusting in Yahuwah in the middle of persecution. He was asking if something was true or not. Now I was answering him. And he knew that he depends on Yahuwah, and he knew that Yahuwah was with him, and he knew that Yahuwah was going to save him. But he did something. He was moving from one side to the other. He was hiding himself. He was running away. He was not just waiting for things to happen in a miraculous way. He was acting according to what he believes while he was waiting for Yahuwah to save him. I always remember, and then when I have the time to talk to people, I mention this example. It's what happened to Moses when they were facing the Red Sea. Everybody was in fear because of the army of the Egyptians. Because, they were not, they didn't have any way out. It was the sea in front of them. And in the other side, was the army of the Egyptians. And everybody was in desperate mode. And what Moses did, he was praying. And he was seeking Yahuwah in the same way that David was doing here in this portion. But what amazed me the most is what Yahuwah answered Moses. Because he said, "Why are you praying to me? Go raise your stand, your stick, and pray and depart the sea." So what Yahuwah was telling Moses, I am with you. Do the work. If you believe in me, act in the same way. And sometimes we are so focused in what we believe that we don't act in the same way. We need to complete our faith. And this is exactly what I see David here happening. If we wait just for things to happen, it's not going to happen. Yahuwah will manifest himself through our own actions. And if our actions is in harmony with what we believe in our heart, he will do wonderful things in our lives. And we will see. Let's continue reading, because it's amazing to see how Yahuwah was saving David. And there are a few examples, just to remind the disciples were being persecuted all the time. They were in fear, but they were acting in obedience. I remember Eliyahu, he was so in fear because of Isabel, but when he was hearing the voice of Yahuwah, when he ran away to Mount Sinai in Horeb, and he heard the voice of Yahuwah, he was obedient, and he was coming out from that cave. And he was acting and doing the work, acting in obedience to Yahuwah. I was reading even this few days ago, the book of Ezra, and how the Yahudim, the Jews, the people from Judah, were coming back from Babylon in order to build the city and build the temple again. And they did it in times of persecution. They did it in times of so many challenges. It was so amazing. I think it was the chapter 6 and chapter 7 that I was reading. And it was so amazing because, at the moment they put the foundations of the temple, they were crying of joy, but also in bitterness. And they were not unable to, the people around them were unable to understand that the tears were because of joy or sadness. I think it was a mix of both things, because some of them remember the first temple, and just the fact to see that they were being pushed and moved by Abba to reveal the second temple, all the emotions they were feeling flourished through the Ruach externally. And I remember I was reading this, and I will recommend you to read again if you're interested, to go to the book of Ezra, chapter 6 and chapter 7. You will find this information over there. They were building the temple, but they started to face persecution. They started to face fighting with the people of the land. But they were so focused on what Yahuwah has commanded them to do, that even though in the middle of persecution, in the middle of fightings, they continue being obedient to what Yahuwah was guiding them to do. And this is exactly what we have to do. We need to continue in obedience. We need to act according to what Yahuwah has been calling us to do. We need to act and move ourselves to do works, to act, to put ourselves into action. Because that's the way that Yahuwah will do marvelous things. In that story that I was reading in the book of Ezra, most probably you remember it. They were being persecuted, and actually the people from the land were sending letters to the king of Persia in order to forbid continuing the work. And they were facing, because the king of Persia was answering back, saying that they were not allowed to continue. But what they did, they continued doing it, because they knew that Yahuwah was with them. Until, a new letter from the king, the new king came, and, remembering the decree from Koresh, the king of Persia, that they were allowed to continue with the construction of the Hechal. Those kind of things. If we put ourselves in the example how Yahuwah is acting in our day-to-day lives, if we just waiting ourselves not to do and not to move into action, Yahuwah is not gonna manifest himself, no matter that he has the power to do it. He is manifesting himself and working through his servants. What the people did back then in the story that I'm just sharing with you and what I read in the book of Ezra. They continue doing the work, building the house of Yahuwah, even that they were persecuted. They sent a letter to the king in order to remind him about the decree from the past. Yahuwah was acting in order to help his people to continue the instruction he gave them, because there was a purpose of Yahuwah in all of that. If you really believe that Yahuwah has a purpose for you, and he does, because if you are in his kingdom, if you're walking in his ways, it's because you have a purpose in his kingdom. It's because Yahuwah has a purpose for you and a purpose for me. I remember I said this in the past, that it was in his wisdom that he decided that you and me were going to live in these times. It's because he saw something in you and something in me. I wonder sometimes why he didn't send, David in this time, how he didn't send Daniel, the prophet Daniel, in this time. Why he didn't send Peter or Philip or the disciples of Yahushua in these times. Why he didn't send Elisha in these times. He decided that you and me were the ones to live in these last days. He didn't decide to send those amazing men from the past to live in these times, and he decided for you and for me, it's because he saw something in all of us. It's because he trusts in you. It's because he trusts in his people and his remnant. The question we need to ask, are we going to trust in him? If he saw something in us, if he trusted in us, and if he trusts in us, are we going to trust in him in order to allow his Ruach to use us for the purpose that he has chosen us? In the same way that he was using all these men and he was using David. This is something that we should meditate all the time. Especially in this time that are coming ahead. I told you at the beginning, I'm going to speak my heart. I don't have so much prepared, but I'm going to allow to speak out what he's putting in my heart. So sorry if I'm deviating myself from the topic, but I think it's important. It's important to remember that we have been called out from the world in order to live a different life. And living a different life. Living, what it means living, is to experience in our day-to-day his life. Is to experience in our day-to-day his word and his kingdom. Is to experience in our day-to-day his guidance and his voice, his Ruach. And I think the time already came and we are late. We need to hurry up in order to get closer to him. Because we get closer to him, we are going to be able to fulfill our purpose. We are going to be filled by the Ruach of Elohim in order to be guided in the way that Yahuwah wants us to guide us. Let's go back to the portion and let's continue reading. So it says in the verse 16, And Jehonadab, Shaul's sons, arose and went to David at Horesh and strengthened his hand in Elohim and said to him, Do not fear, for the hand of Shaul my father is not going to find you, and you are to reign over Israel, and I am to be next to you. Even my father Shaul knows that. He was going through persecution. And Yahuwah was sending Jehonadab in order to strengthen David. If you are going through challenges, and we will go through challenges, there's no doubt. He's so good to us that he will find ways to put people in front of us in order to strengthen us. You remember that I was inviting you to pray for one another at the beginning of the broadcast. This is exactly what we need to do. Yahuwah will use you and me to strengthen others. That's what a family means. That's what a brother or a sister means. That we are here in order to strengthen one another, to continue in the way of Yahuwah. And they made a covenant before Yahuwah, and David remained at Horesh while Jehonadab went to his own house. This is Jonathan, Jehonadab in Hebrew. And the Ziphites came out to Shaul at Gibeah, saying, Is David not hiding with us in the strongholds Horesh, in the hill of Hahilah, which is on the south of the wasteland? And now, sovereign, by all the desire of your being, come down, and our part is to surrender him into the sovereign's hand. And Shaul said, Blessed are you of Yahuwah, for you have sympathy with me. Please go, prepare yet further, and find out and see the place. And this is so important, and you will understand why I'm laughing. This is exactly what's going on today. Let's continue reading. Please go, prepare yet further, and find out and see the place where his hideout is. Who has seen him there? For I am told that he is very cunning. So look and learn all about the hiding places where he hides. And you shall come back to me with certainty. Then I shall go with you. And it shall be, if he is in the land, that I shall search for him throughout all the clans of Yehudah. And they rose up and went to see before Shaul while David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the desert plain of the south of the wasteland. So, you know, we see even in the middle of persecution, more persecution was coming against David. And why I was laughing, the whole description we see over here, people going against David and going to Shaul in order to give David to him into his hand. But what Shaul was instructing them is something that in our current vocabulary has been so used lately, and is the word surveillance. Most probably you haven't heard about that, and most probably you are aware of what's going on. But surveillance is something that is in the current vocabulary in many of us, most probably. Especially, in the current measures that the system of the world is taking. But, let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 13. In the book of Revelation, chapter 13, we know that we are talking about the two beasts. The beast is the system of the beast. And we're talking about the first and the second beast. And, we're not going to read it completely, but just to pick some of the verses, when it's talking about the first beast, it says the following in the verse 6. And he opened his mouth in blasphemies against Elohim, to blaspheme his name and his tent, and those dwelling in the heaven. In the verse 7 it says, and it was given to him to fight with the set apart ones, the Kadoshim, in Hebrew, and to overcome them. And authority was given to him over every tribe and tongue and nation. So it is prophesied that this beast system is going to have authority over the entire world. It is prophesied that this system and this beast is going to fight and persecute the Kadoshim, the set apart ones. What are those ones? Are the ones following the way of Yahuwah and keeping his commandments. But not only that, let's go to the verse 15 and 17 when it's talking about the second beast. And it says the following, and there was given to him to give spirit to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause to be killed as many as could not worship the image of the beast. And he causes all, both small and great, and rich and poor, and free and slave, to be given a mark upon their right hand, or upon their foreheads, and that no one should be able to buy or sell except he that has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Why are you bringing this up, on this point? We see a similar situation happening here between Shaul and David. Shaul was instructing the people of the land to find out the places David was hiding, to get to know every detail, to know every move. Is exactly what the system of the beast has been implementing. It's exactly the same thing that most probably we were going to go through. And I think it's already in place. It's not the moment, and maybe it's not the time to talk about that in more details. But I just want to highlight that David went through a similar situation. The system of the world in his time, were narrowing down, yes, I think is that the way to mention it, all the options to David. They were putting David into the corner without having any way to escape, because they were finding out all the information and every move that David was doing in the same way that is being described that's going to happen and is already happening. But what David did, he trusted in Yahuwah. He trusted in Elohim. So let's continue reading and we will see what happened. It says in the verse 25, and Shaul and his men went to seek him, and they informed David. So he went down to the rock and remained in the wilderness of Maon. And when Shaul heard this, he pursued David in the wilderness of Maon. And Shaul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men to the other side of the mountain. They were getting closer and closer in this persecution, and David running away in order to protect and save his life. And David was hurrying to get away from Shaul. For Shaul and his men were surrounding David and his men to take them, because they already knew all the information about what they were doing, where they were hiding themselves, and every move, because the people of the land were helping them, helping Shaul to know all this information. But listen what happened. And this is the favor and the marvelous work of Yahuwah Elohim, that he was saving David from all his distresses. Because this is exactly what happened. Because David trusting him, trusting Yahuwah. Then a messenger came to Shaul saying, "Hurry and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land." So Shaul turned back from pursuing David and went against the Philistines. Therefore they called that place Selah Hamachlekoth. And David went up from there and remained in the strongholds at En-Gedi. You see, if we trust in Yahuwah, even that surveillance is increasing, even that we are being put into the corner, and we see with our eyes no way out, no way to escape, if we trust in Yahuwah till the end, he is the one that is going to do something to save us. What he did is he raced against the Philistines to fight back to Shaul. And Shaul needed to go to fight them instead of keeping persecuting David. That was the way that Yahuwah was saving David. And it's the same way that Yahuwah will save us for all our distresses in our own life, or as a body of what's coming ahead. And I always try to put this in context, because we need to understand and we need to believe in this, that, what's happening in the world, in the plan of Yahuwah for his people and for this world, from that angle, we need to trust in Yahuwah all the time. But also there is a micro angle that we can look into this. And what I'm talking about is our own lives. All of us are going in our day-to-day through challenges. Different type of challenges. It could be emotional challenges, could be family challenges, could be different things in our jobs, or in different aspects of our lives. We can go through challenges. If we apply this way of life in this micro scenario, we are going to have the opportunity to learn how to trust in Yahuwah when bigger things will come for us as a body. That's the way that Yahuwah is giving us, through our own experiences, the way to learn his path, the way to learn to trust in him. So I think in this story, and I have been taking more time than expected, we have to go through the chapter 24, is something that we need to reflect ourselves, and we need to trust in him always, no matter the persecution, no matter the challenges. There's a Tehillah Psalms that I like so much, that we have been doing some readings of Tehillim in the Light to the Nations channel, that I think is a reflection of everything that I have been talking to you, and I want to share with you, just to do a pause and then to drink a little bit of water. So here we go. I want to share this with you, and just think, and everything that we have been talking today and study, how the words in this Tehillim, in this Tehillah, in these Psalms, is reflecting everything we have been saying so far and what Yahuwah has been talking to us. So here we go.
Yahuwah is my light and my deliverance. Whom should I fear? Yahuwah is the refuge of my life. Whom should I dread? When evildoers come against me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they shall stumble and fall. Though an army encamps against me, my heart does not fear. Though battle comes up against me, even then I would be trusting. One matter I ask of Yahuwah, this I seek, to dwell in the house of Yahuwah all the days of my life, to see the pleasantness of Yahuwah, and to inquire in his Hechal. For in the day of evil he hides me in his booth, in the covering of his tent he hides me. On a rock he raised me up, and now my head is lifted up above my enemies all around me. And I slaughter in his tent with the slaughters of sounding. I sing, yes, I sing praises to Yahuwah. Hear, O Yahuwah, when I cry with my voice, and show me favor, and answer me. To my heart you have said, seek my face. Your face, Yahuwah, I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in displeasure. You have been my help. Do not leave me nor forsake me, O Elohim of my deliverance. When my father and my mother have forsaken me, then Yahuwah does take me in. Teach me your way, O Yahuwah, and lead me in a smooth path because of my enemies. Do not give me over to the desire of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and they breathe out cruelty to me. What if I had not believed to see the goodness of Yahuwah in the land of the living? Wait on Yahuwah, be strong, and let him strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on Yahuwah.
Wait on Yahuwah and let him strengthen yourself. I think we see in the life of David exactly that. He was the one to write in this Tehillim, these Psalms. And I think we see here in those words his heart. And that should be an amazing and a blessing to all of us, example to the way we need to look into situations, in the way that we need to trust in Yahuwah. We just saw it here in this portion in the chapter 23. He was seeking Yahuwah at all times. He was trusting in him. And because of that, Yahuwah was saving him. No matter that an army encamps against us, if we trust in Yahuwah, he will guide us all the time. So, let's read quickly the chapter 24 and let's see what we find over here. And this is, a beautiful, let me see just my notes here. I think it's a beautiful chapter because, it's speaking even more about what was the heart of David. And, we know that as soon as we understand and learn about what was the heart of David, we know what's the heart of Abba, what's the heart of Yahuwah Elohim. So, let's read quickly, and I will just give some insights of what I have in my heart about this portion. So, it says the following: and it came to be when Shaul had returned from pursuing the Philistines that it was reported to him, saying, "See, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi." So persecution arose once again. So we know what was going to be the action of David, trusting and keeping trusting in Abba. So Shaul took 3,000 chosen men. Can you imagine 3,000 chosen men to persecute one man with his friends and his army? But it wasn't that much. 3,000 chosen men from all Israel, and went to seek David and his men on the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepfolds on the way, and there was a cave. And Shaul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the sides of the cave. And the men of David said to him, "See, the day of which Yahuwah said to you, 'See, I am giving your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you.' And David arose and gently cut off a corner of Shaul's robe. And it came to be afterward that the heart of David struck him because he had cut the robe of Shaul. So he says to his men, 'Far be it from me, by Yahuwah, that I should do this matter to my master, anointed of Yahuwah, to stretch out my hand against him, for he is the anointed of Yahuwah.' And David dispersed his servants with words and did not allow them to rise against Shaul. And Shaul rose up from the cave and went on his way. You know, I think this story most probably is something we all have gone through. And I remember, I think it was last week that I mentioned that when Mashiach was speaking and telling the disciples that that he was going to suffer by the hands of the priests and the Pharisees and the scribes in Jerusalem, it was Peter the one telling the master and rebuking the master, how come you are telling all of this? How you are going to allow all of this to happen? But Yahushua was using the discernment that he was receiving from the Ruach of Elohim, understanding that it wasn't Peter the one speaking these words. It was Satan himself. He was saying, depart from me, Satan. I do believe that David was acting in the same way here in this passage. And this speaks a lot to all of us. That sometimes, we can feel in our emotions, our own thoughts can push us to do something. Because we see, a situation that already is in favor to us. Maybe we are going through situations that people have been persecuting or do wrong to us. And in one moment we have the opportunity to pay back. But this is exactly what Elohim wants us to do. We always, in every time of our lives, and I think this is the main message that at least I'm learning from this portion, that we need to ask Abba, we need to ask Yahuwah to help us to decide what to do. If we rely in our own understanding, we are going to fail. We need to seek Yahuwah to guide us in his decision. And we are being called to walk in righteousness, to seek first the righteousness and the kingdom of Yahuwah and the righteousness of the kingdom as the priority of our lives. And this is exactly what we see here, David. He had the opportunity to make his troubles completely disappear. In front of him was the man that he was seeking his life. Was Shaul that wanted to kill him. He was running away, going from one place to the other, being persecuted and being afraid of his life because of Saul, because of Shaul. And, he had the opportunity here in front of him to get rid of the problem. And that's why, the people, just to think in our own experience, it could be our own thoughts, it could be the people surrounding us, our friends, families, whoever, is pushing us, to take vengeance or to take the action in our own hands, trusting in our own judgment, instead of trusting in the judgment of Yahuwah. Because there's only one perfect. There's only one righteous. That's him. And what I see here reflected are the fruits of the Ruach. And one of the fruits is patience. Sometimes we're so impatient. We need to wait on Yahuwah. As we just were listening in Tehillim 27, wait on Yahuwah. I say, wait on Yahuwah. And wait on Yahuwah doesn't mean that we need to be inactive. We see David was not inactive at all. He was waiting in Yahuwah and asking Yahuwah what to do. So, we need to let the Ruach to guide us in the patience. We need to let the Ruach guide us in our decisions, in our actions. And when we do that, we see how light overcome darkness. We see how righteousness overcome wickedness. And let's keep in mind for a moment that what was going through Shaul, and we were studying this in the last few weeks, that he were being moved by an evil spirit. If you remember, some story happened between Jonathan and Saul, that when Jonathan came to talk to his father, he was speaking good words about David. And these good words, this light, this righteousness, led Saul to come back in his mind and realize that David was almost a son. Now we're talking here at home that we're remembering is that David was very young, and Saul took him in order to be part of his team, to say so. So David was growing up in the house of Saul. He was seeing Saul as his kind of father, and Saul somehow was seeing David as a son. And we'll see part of it later on in this chapter. So, Jonathan was speaking, and through his words, he appeased Saul in order not to be moved by this evil spirit and to realize that what he was doing was wrong. And, for me, that's an example of righteousness in action. Righteousness put into action. The righteousness of the kingdom of Yahuwah put into action. And here we see another example of righteousness being put into action in order to defeat any type of wickedness. I have been sharing with you that until we have the chance even to talk today here at home about music and how music, we remember the story that we were reading here a few weeks ago about Saul being attacked by this evil spirit, and through the music of David, he was finding peace. That we live in a spiritual world. We need to remember that no matter that everything is physical, we see with our eyes and everything we can touch, that what we cannot see sometimes is more important. And what we don't see is the spiritual world. And righteousness, every time that we act in righteousness of the kingdom, we are strong enough in the spirit of Elohim in order to defeat any evil spirit. And this is exactly what happened in the story of Jonathan and Saul. And this is exactly what we see happen in this story. So David acting in the righteousness of the kingdom of Yahuwah, understanding that the true judge is Elohim, not trusting in his hands to do judgment. He was trusting always in Yahuwah to guide him to put the righteousness of the kingdom and the right rulings of the kingdom that is part of the righteousness into action. So let's continue. In verse 8, and afterward David arose and went out of the cave and called out to Shaul, saying, my master, the sovereign. And when Shaul looked behind him, David bowed with his face to the earth and did obeisance. Humility, patience, are part of the character that Yahuwah wants to form in you and wants to form in me. And David said to Shaul, why do you listen to the words of men who say, see, David seeks to do you evil? See, this day your eyes have seen that Yahuwah gave you today into my hand. Shaul most probably didn't know what he was talking about. But let's continue reading. In the cave, and one said to kill you. But my eye pardoned you, and I said, I do not stretch out my hand against my master, for he is the anointed of Yahuwah. And my father, see the corner of your robe in my hand, for in that I cut off the corner of your robe, and did not kill you. Know that and see that there is neither evil nor rebellion in my hand, and I have not sinned against you while you are hunting my life to take it. Let Yahuwah judge between you and me, and let Yahuwah revenge me on you, but my hand is not against you. As the proverb of the ancients says, wrong comes from the wrongdoer, but my hand is not against you. So, we see David speaking about the righteousness in his life. And we know that his righteousness was because he was following the righteousness of the kingdom of Elohim. And what happened after that? What we read in the verse 16. And it came to be when David had ended speaking these words to Shaul, that Shaul said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" So Shaul lifted up his voice and wept. Light overcome over darkness. If we really walk in the light, if we really trust in Yahuwah till the end, no matter that our enemies, and when I'm talking about enemies, I'm talking about our spiritual enemies, because those are the ones that are being working through people. We don't need to be in fear for those spiritual enemies, because if we trust in Yahuwah till the end, He is going the one helping us in the same way that He was helping David, because he was acting and living in the righteousness of the kingdom. And he said to David in the verse 17, "You are more righteous than I, for you have rewarded me with good, whereas I have rewarded you with evil." Can you see, that's the point that I wanted to make. Shaul was being moved by an evil spirit. Everything that he was doing, because an evil spirit was moving him to do so. But because David was acting in the righteousness of the kingdom of Yahuwah, because he was being guided by the Ruach of Elohim in everything he did, he was able to defeat the evil spirit. That's why, Shaul realized what was going on, because the light of Yahuwah was stronger than the darkness of this evil spirit was in him. To understand that, righteousness of David was the righteousness of Yahuwah, was even greater. Let's continue reading verse 19. "For if a man finds his enemy, should he let him get away safely? Let Yahuwah reward you with good for what you have done to me today. Now look, I know that you shall certainly reign, and that the reigns of Israel shall be established in your hand. And now swear to me by Yahuwah that you do not cut off my seed after me, nor destroy my name from my father's house." And David swore to Shaul. Then Shaul went home, and David and his men went up to a stronghold. Yahuwah has said that He has chosen us to be king and priest. In His kingdom, as soon as it is established, we are going to be in that position. We, together with Mashiach, are going to be the ones with the responsibility to lead the world into the righteousness of Yahuwah. We are going to participate in the restoration of all things, the restoration of creation, and the restoration of the righteousness in this world. Shaul knew that David was appointed by Yahuwah to reign over Israel. We know that we have been chosen to be kings and priests. This is the time for us to learn. And we learn not only by studying, we learn by doing. If we do, we are going to be prepared. We are kind of in the school now, to say so. We are learning how to do our role that is coming together with the kingdom of Yahuwah here on earth. So every time we have the opportunity to act in righteousness, we are growing every time that we are able to put into action the righteousness of the kingdom in our own experiences, in our day-to-day life, we are growing in order to be ready for the role that we have been called by Yahuwah to fulfill in the future. And there are few passages that we see something similar. Let's go to the first one in the book of 1 Peter. And we are going to the chapter 2, verse 12 to 17. And it says the following. Let's read from the 11. Beloved ones, I appeal to you as sojourners and pilgrims to abstain from fleshly lusts which battle against the being, having your behavior among the nations good, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, let them, by observing your good works, esteem Elohim in a day of visitation. Just remember what we just read about David and Shaul. And remember this as we are reading these words from Peter, from Kepha. Be subject to every institution of man because of the master, whether to the sovereign as supreme, or to governors as to those who are sent by him for the punishment of doers of evil, and a praise for those who do good. So is exactly what David did. He knew and he acknowledged that Shaul was in that position because Yahuwah decided to do in that way. And this is exactly what Peter is talking about. Because such is the desire of Elohim, that by doing good, you should put to silence the ignorance of the foolish men. You know, complete reflection of what we just saw in the story of David. As free, yet not using your freedom as a cloak for evil, but as servants of Elohim. Respect all, love the brotherhood, fear Elohim, respect the sovereign. And you know, through the years, I always seen this question appearing all the time. But until when we are going to be obeying the authorities? And I think the scripture is so clear on this point. And you know, the best example is Daniel. He was in Babylon. He was in the king courts. He was, you know, part of the wise men of the king of Babylon. And he was respecting the sovereign. But he was respecting more Elohim. Even though he was being pushed to trespass and to go astray from the commandment and the way of Yahuwah, he didn't do it. But at all times he was respectful, because through his actions he was doing exactly what Peter is describing here, to put in silence, to silence the ignorance of the foolish man. Sometimes we don't need to say a word. Sometimes we don't need to speak up. Sometimes the only thing we have to do, or we need to do, is to live accordingly and through our actions of righteousness of the kingdom. We are going to speak even more about our lovely Abba. And you know, Yahushua was even talking about this, about the heart of David and what should be our heart as well. And I want to finish with this verse that is so beautiful. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 5. And we're going to read from verse 43 to 48. You know, Yahushua is going to the point, just to understand the way that David was acting. And it's the same way that he is teaching us that we should act. And it's totally in harmony with what just read in the book of Peter. And it says the following. You hear that it was said, you should love your neighbor and hate your enemy. You know, this is what they were saying, that we need to hate our enemies. This is not written in the Torah at all. to hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those cursing you, do good to those hating you, and pray for those insulting you and persecuting you, so that you become sons of your Father in the heavens, because he made his sun rise on the wicked and on the good, and sends rain on the righteousness, in the righteous and on the righteous. For if you love those loving you, what reward have you? Are the tax collectors not doing the same too? And if you greet your brothers only, what do you do more than others? Are the tax collectors not doing so too? Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect. That's the way that we should act. And I think, as I say, Yahushua is compiling everything and summarizing everything that we see in this portion in the way that David was acting. That's the way that we should act as children of Elohim, trusting in Yahuwah at all time, living in our experiences in the righteousness of his kingdom, believing in him, acting, and not just waiting actively in Yahuwah, because he is going to manifest himself to save us from any challenge, from any situation. He is going to manifest himself in our lives in these last days to save us in any situation that we are going through in our personal lives, but also to save us as a body of what's coming ahead in order to fulfill his plan, in order to save his remnant. We just need to trust in him all the time and wait on Yahuwah. So, brothers and sisters, this is what I have to share with you today. I didn't have the chance to take a look in the chat because I wanted to be fully focused on the message that I was feeling in my heart. So I really hope that this has been blessing you. It's a wonderful thing to have this opportunity to gather ourselves every Shabbat to study the word of Yahuwah, and also not to study, just to meditate on how the word of Yahuwah can be totally applicable to our lives today, in our personal experience in this life, but also as a body and what we see happening in the world. If we learned individually how to trust in Yahuwah, can you imagine how we can do as a body if we all trust in Yahuwah in the same way? As I said before, I have no doubt that he will manifest himself. I do believe that the time is getting shorter and shorter for the second coming of Mashiach. And as I told you what I felt earlier today, he's trusting in you and trusting in me. We need to trust him in the same way. And we need to be prepared and willing to follow his voice. We need to seek the manifestation of the Ruach in our lives, because he will guide us in the same way that he was guiding David, he was guiding the disciples. We just need to believe, and we need to get closer to him and seek him with all our strength. So, brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining me today. We will continue next week with let me tell you, it's going to be chapter 25 and 26. So I will invite you to read it before, just to participate in the chat, make your comments over there to other brothers and sisters of what you have read. So prepare your portion for next week. It's going to be chapter 25 and 26 of the book of Samuel. So I really hope, and I invite you to join us next week. I really hope to see you all enjoying this time together, this virtual gathering in Virtual House Church. And I pray, Abba, that you are going to have a blessed week. For some of you, those of you who are celebrating Shavuot, I hope that you are going to have an amazing celebration. For those of you that are still waiting, I know that Yahuwah has been with you in the time that you are going to celebrate Shavuot. And, I pray to Abba that he is going to guide your steps during this week, that He is going to open the doors that needs to be open and close the ones that needs to be closed, that you can put into practice everything that we are learning. I will do myself, I will put myself to put into practice all of this, just to trust in Yahuwah, to consult with Him, to guide me in order to learn how to listen to His voice and to be obedient to what He's doing. Let's put this into practice during this week. Let Yahuwah guide us all the time. So thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Once again, I hope to see you next week in Virtual House Church. Yahuwah be with you all. Shabbat Shalom. Bye.
יברכך יחוה וישמרך, יאר יחוה פניו לך ויחונקה, יישא יחוה פניו לך לך שלום, יישא יחוה פניו לך ויעשה לך שלום, ויעשה לך שלום, ויעשה לך שלום.
Yahuwah bless you and keep you. Yahuwah make His face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Yahuwah make His face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace.
Yahuwah te bendiga y te guarde. Yahuwah haga resplandecer su rostro en ti y tenga de ti compasión. Yahuwah alce su rostro sobre ti